Now, in its alternative budget speech, the Democratic Alliance is proposing additional tax on companies implicated in corruption. The party says this will help the country fight high levels of corruption by ensuring that those implicated face punitive corruption tax. Newzroom Afrika's Athi Mtongana has more on that story.
The official opposition party says it wants the country's finances to be centered around budgeting for jobs, accelerating economic growth and fighting poverty. The DA presented its alternative budget for 2022.
The DA's 2022 alternative budget presents how a DA government will reverse the upward debt spiral by containing debt and managing expenditure, attract investment capital and encourage savings to accelerate economic growth, stimulate economic growth enablers by ensuring energy and water security, attracting retired educators back into the system, and reforming state-owned enterprises for private investment. Fight corruption by making an exception to our commitment to no new taxes or tax increases by imposing a punitive corruption tax. Protect vulnerable South Africans by introducing a conditional basic income grant, supporting small, medium and micro business enterprises in particular, and leveraging pension fund assets to the benefit of fund members.
The party says it will soon introduce a private member's bill in Parliament to initiate corruption tax as a punitive measure against companies and organizations embroiled in corruption.
We're very much aware that the private sector in South Africa in some instances have aided and abetted in corruption. It's common knowledge. And the idea is that those companies would face a punitive tax. So where a company has been involved in corruption, that they would pay an additional tax. And
is this when they are charged or implicated in a report, for example? Have they now at least gone through the legal processes to prove beyond doubt that they are in fact corrupt?
There would have to be a process. As I mentioned earlier on, is that is a private member's bill that would have to make its way through the system, and when it goes through the system we'd have to look at the detail of that. Obviously you don't want to get into a situation where you blame entire business for problems that have arisen, because that isn't the right approach.
The party also says Finance Minister Mtongana should ensure that the country doesn't put more money in dysfunctional state-owned enterprises.
Well, on the SOEs there is a very, very bad idea that President Ramaphosa mentioned, to start another SOE to manage the existing SOEs. Now, it makes absolutely no sense to create another state-owned enterprise to look after failed state-owned enterprises. So that we certainly will oppose that. But the crucial thing is that where an SOE is in fact useful, it should remain. But what you need to do is make sure that it's economically viable. We cannot afford to put more and more money on these state-owned enterprises.
Minister Mtongana will present his budget speech on Wednesday this week. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Athi Mtongana in Cape Town.